our session. There you go. As I mentioned in the chat, please let us know where you're joining from. I know we have people from Portugal and some people from the US. Talita is in Brazil, so I would assume there are more people joining from Brazil as well. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us. This is the first fire session for our season 3 starting in October. And it's crazy for me to think that we already came such a long way, because we started with Eco Design Leadership course in maybe March 2021, and the research is leading us to this course in 2020. So it has been a long time already, and this is season 3. Like we're literally succeeding. If you were in Netflix series, we will be already in season 3, and that's quite amazing. In any case, my name is Luna. I'm the program manager for Eco Design Leadership, and I'm so honored, and I'm also very excited to be having this first conversation with my colleagues. Victor and I actually share a little bit of the same background, because of him, I took my master's in strategic design in Politecnico di Milan. So it is such an honor, and I look up to him. So it's amazing to be sharing this experience. And I know Talita is also with us because somehow she's working with him on the same team. So it's just all a nice synchronicity. In any case, today is our first talk, and we're going to be talking about the journey of design maturity. I'm super excited to see you guys' perspectives, and maybe I can hop in and share a couple of things as well. Again, Victor and Talita are our guests. Victor is the design manager at Echoes, and Talita is our design thinker and visual graphic designer. We've been working together for design leadership, and it's amazing to have her as my colleague as well. I would like to introduce a little bit of Echoes for those who don't know us yet, but we've been in the market for 11 years, almost 12 years now. We started in Brazil as a blog, and now we are literally all over the world. Most of our team is in São Paulo or in Brazil in general, and we have a big team in Europe as well as in Australia. And I'm the only one in the US, but I'm hoping to have more people joining me. We are independent and global Desirable Futures Lab. We have the Desirable Futures Labs where we're helping business create value and innovate for good. And Echo School, helping people and organizations master the innovation mindset, skills, and tools. And as part of the Echo School, that's where you find Design Leadership Program, which I'll be talking a little bit about, and the reason why we're here today. Our purpose as a lab is to foster the next generation of design leaders worldwide. We are part of the Global Design Thinking Alliance, and I love to talk about this because we are the only independent lab among all these big names that you see here doing research on design. And it's quite an honor to be a part of this big group of people thinking ahead. And everything we do is through design. I think that's quite obvious, but it's always good to say that we're here advocating for design big time. We believe in the power of design and design as a way to transform new realities, enabling preferred futures. We combine business and design to transform organizations and society. And one of the ways that we're doing that currently, as I mentioned before, is through the Design Leadership Program. The season 3 is starting in October 10, and this is the journey. It's a 10-week course where we mainly go through this 4 spheres here, which is you and yourself as a leader, you and other people, because it isn't a lot about deep listening and giving feedback and understanding how to interact with people. So there's a lot of soft skills that it is necessary for you to be a leader. It's a lot about you and the products and service that you design, because otherwise, well, what exactly are you doing? If you're a designer, you're not designing something. And it's necessarily about you and the systems that you're designing for. So those 10 weeks here are an unfolding of the 4 spheres of design. There are the 4 main pillars of design leadership. This was the lineup for the season 2, which is still happening. Victor is our student for season 2. I was a student for season 1. I would love to hear his feedback at some point soon today. Soon we will have the lineup for season 3. We cannot share, but some big names are coming again, and I'm super excited, but I cannot give you spoilers yet. It's an exclusive program for design and innovation leaders. Again, starting October 10th until December 14th. It's a 10-week course. Something about the master classes and the local workshops. Mainly, we want to bring something inspirational first during the week. It's in 2 different times. And then following up to this more inspirational talk with those big names that you saw here. Then following up, we have a local workshop trying to tangibilize through the lenses of the region where these people are located, like how are these leaders who are already in the market executing, or as design practitioner, creating frameworks, or actually executing design as a strategy or design as operation, and so forth. I would love to be talking more about that with you. You guys are more than welcome to send me a text or an email. But we are here today to listen to Thalita and Victor, and I'm so honored to have you guys here. Thank you so much for giving your time for this. And we'll be talking about the journey of design maturity. So before we go there, I would love for you guys to take some time and share with us a little bit of your background, who you are, what are you doing. Would you be so kind to share a little bit with us? And choose whoever want to go first. I don't want to be pointing, so let's just do it fluidly.
You want to go, Tali?
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here, to be invited. I hope my English is not that bad, so you can understand me. But please feel welcome to stop me to ask questions if you don't understand what I say. Okay. Well, I'm currently at Ecos, happily, working as a design thinker and visual designer. But my background is actually on graphic design. So I have graduated in architecture in a school that was big influenced by Bauhaus. So they had this multidisciplinary approach to design. So is why I end up in the career of graphic design. So, and I have worked in a few small studios, and the 8 years, and in the last 8 years, I've worked in advertising agency and in a publishing company, both doing visual design and graphic design. So now I'm feeling like a lot of uncertainty and an urge to know more, to do more, and the possibilities of strategic design. I went to Ecos first for learning. So I have just graduated from the strategic design specialization, and now I'm finally working at Ecos, which was my big dream for almost 3 years now.
Thanks a lot, Tali. And I'm Victor. I'm really glad to have Thalita on my team. Really, really, really proud of that. I'm currently design manager here at Ecos. I'm speaking from Cascais, Portugal, but I started my journey in Brazil. I'm Brazilian and Portuguese. I did a double bachelor's in design. I graduated in product and graphic design, and I worked there in some of the biggest studios in Rio since, I don't know, a long time ago, almost 15 years. I think I've been working with design. And after that, I founded my own studio to do sustainable design, which was awarded worldwide and published also. But after a while, I went to Milan, to Politecnico, to invest in myself and in broadening my vision of design. I wanted to study exactly, Ballet was the studio. Thanks, Lula. To broaden my vision of design and how that could be applied to generate more impact. Because in Bolay, my sustainable design studio, we were generating a lot of impact, but in a specific geography, and I wanted to try to scale that. So I did strategic design masters in the Politecnico, where I met Luna for the first time. She was, I believe, the class after mine, and And it was a great experience. I started to work in a multinational there in Italy, the plastic packaging producer, and became innovation manager, product innovation manager there, and worked in product projects and products all over Europe. And from that, I developed a lot these leadership skills and had to do also with internal leadership, and got to do what I wanted, like to scale the change that I could. Not in my small studio, but in a bigger organization, and that worked pretty well. After that, a while, I had one kid, and when I found out of the second, we moved to Portugal because it was pandemic, and we wanted to. I have family here, so it was the idea to stay closer to family. And now I'm ended up here at Ecos, which I really admired their work, and I'm really glad to be here captaining the lab team. So that's it.
I love both your journeys and how in a way it's so different, but now we're all connected through Echoes and in a way also through design leadership. And we had this conversation earlier this week. And the reason why we're here today is to talk a little bit about how through your perspective and your experiences, you saw the design maturity evolving, especially considering that the backgrounds or the backgrounds of the companies that you guys worked with before arriving at Echoes were so different. I would like to see from your perspective how you saw the shift. Yes, of course, you as a designer for sure matured throughout the past 10, 15 years, but also how did you see the changes in the market, in the industry, towards a more mature design culture within companies? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, I think I'll start because Victor had a background more at a high level design maturity than I, so maybe he'll have some answers to the questions I might raise here. So I can say I have two experiences that were very important in this kind of matter of design maturity. In the advertising agency that I worked, they were eager to innovation and to design. But they were most focused on deliverables, on the outputs, so what they could sell to the clients. So not on the process and the strategic part of the design they weren't looking at. So it was like the day by day what they could sell to the clients, and what they saw design and innovation was mostly focused on technology. But the high-level managers were very open to. So I could see they would have an low level of maturity, but they were looking forward and keeping track of the things. At the publishing company, I can say it had none whatsoever. So they were a publishing company of magazines mostly, owned by another bigger publishing company in Brazil that is owned by another huge media company in Brazil. So they had this very tradition and legacy they were very attached to. So when things were changing and magazine and journalism publishing companies were changing, they were so attached to the traditions and the old way of doing things and selling things and communicating to the public and to the user, that it's very difficult for them to see design as more than just a visual thing or just a product that is almost by the end of the chain. So they had an area that was called digital strategy, but they had the most low budget area. They had a lot of limited access to not only budget money, but resources. the reach within the company was very, very low. And it was the first area when the pandemic hit that got cuts. So I could say the maturity level, design maturity level there was very, very low. And it's very, very sad to see and that they had so much potential, but they were so attached to the old ways that they couldn't go forward. And it's a very high risk for a company to be in that position.
I hear a lot of the pain points that for the past year and a half I've been hearing from Echo's clients and our current students or the alumni from season 1, which is low budget, not a lot of how can I say it, not many avenues for you to articulate the value of design as more than just a beautification tool, but more as a strategic asset, as well as maybe having such rigid structures to the point that you as a designer, you feel so limited in what you can contribute because you're only brought into the conversation at the end of the journey of developing something. And I believe many of you here today could potentially relate to at least one of those pains, if not all of them, depending on what industry you are inserted in. But I would love that by bringing those pain points, maybe Victor, are those similar to something that you experienced before? Tell me a little bit more, like if you see any difference between the industry or maybe the different countries in terms of design maturity.
For sure, I can totally relate with the experience of Thalita also. I also did my first internship in a publicity company, like, and then also in design agencies that were really like forward looking and doing innovative work or really high-end work. There were always those proposals that would end up in the drawer, you know, like the coolest stuff that the team was working on, or the things that we most believe in. A lot of that would go always to the drawer. And after evolving also in my design maturity and studying strategic design, I believed, and even as an entrepreneur, I believe that the power also to like surpass those obstacles and to get to the results or get these innovative ideas rolling is also connected to the business knowledge that we have. You know, I think the classic IDEO graph, it's really powerful because of that, because you have the desirable for people, and of course with human-centered design, with research, we can get to that really quickly and not so easily, but yeah, it's maybe the fastest part. But then we need to understand how we can deliver a solution, what's technically possible, what we can develop around that. And then there's the third and most important step, like how we make that like sustainably, economically, you know, financially viable. That's the biggest challenge when you are innovating, when you don't have like the manuals, you know, like engineering. Oh, we have to build a building. We've done 100,000 of those. Like that's easy. But let's say then, from my experience, when I had to figure out how to make us like a supply chain of ocean-bound plastic from Southeast Asia to Europe, then you need to figure out a lot of things that you really have no idea how you're going to do that, and you need to speak with the right people. And I believe that that's the power of design, also, like of design thinking and how to use the human-centered approach. Not only, okay, I need to do client interviews, user interviews, and I need to do user testing and validate my proposal. No, you can do that internally. You can do that with partners, with businesses. That when you understand that everything is made of people, you go there and you ask the right people, okay, how should I do that? What do you believe? And that, I believe, it's a huge like power of design and design leadership. When you, as a designer, you act as a connector, as a translator, no, not only between the final user and the business, like the client and the app or whatever, but also between silos in your organization. And when you connect because the classic T-shaped professional profile, like when you can understand at a basic level almost everything of or how people think or how they speak or their jargons and I don't know of engineering, of research and development, of administration and so on and so forth, and management. But you are really focused on your specific area. You can translate also from one side to another and get like complex projects and complex balls rolling within the organization. And that I got the opportunity to do. And it's really powerful because sometimes the answers are there, but they are just like not connected in a way that makes sense. I don't know if that's making sense for everybody, but that happened in my experience, and I believe, and I see that like more and more also with clients. You know, we as designers and then design, I think, as a leadership approach has also that potency. Then, of course, we have the complexity of dealing with the leadership in design, in the design field, and how to apply that. That's a different story. I don't know if I answered everything. Is there anything else that was not touched by what I said?
What I hear that you're saying is that one of the main powers for a designer, or maybe any given people who develop those skills, is that by understanding someone else's language and by communicating through their perspective is the easiest way for you to engage larger groups or like different groups within the same organization, for instance. And by creating that communication, it's easier then to let these people understand the importance of what you're doing or the importance of a new aspect that your research brought to you.
Exactly.
Am I
exactly
correct?
Spot on. And that's where the empathy goes. You know, like empathy, it's really good on paper and makes a lot of sense, but to apply that on a daily basis is the true, like it's where you get the true result. You know, you have to really understand, like if somebody censors you in a certain way and you don't like it, they have a reason for that. At least they believe they have a reason for that. You need to understand what's that reason. Like when you care for those people, you can like navigate easier all of those also personal objections or even misunderstandings, and then there is the layer that I brought earlier that you were saying, like when you understand their language, it's easier also to translate from one person to another, because when you have, example, a workshop, when you have different people, and then you get to also with different cultures depending on what you're working on, it's easier to translate what somebody is saying to another, because you might be using the same words, but you might be interpreting different things. And when you get this level of understanding that it's not just about the words, it's also about the body language, but their cultural background, their professional background, and so on, I think we get better results. But that's a really not an easy job. Like it's really a tough thing and complex thing. That's why I really like the approach of ECOS. Like we really have this approach as facilitators and even as one of the courses that we have, because that facilitation goes for really making everything easier.
I have a follow-up question to that before we get to the next question. Did you see like a very strong difference between the countries where you work with or with which you work with, in terms of the maturity or in terms of how they actually adapt this communication, language, or empathy approach?
100%, and that's really cool. From my experience, I think there's two levels. That there is the maturity, like the design maturity, that goes also, that changes a lot, and to understanding that, I think is really important when you are in a place and you know, okay, what's the level of maturity of comprehension of design and design thinking of the people you're dealing with, that makes it easier to communicate with them. And that goes a long way. Like I did a lot of design thinking at a high strategic level with directors in my company without saying I was doing design thinking. And I think is something that you can do. But on the cultural part, that was, I think that's is the coolest part from my experience. I had to organize like researches all over Europe, and we had to go in all like 9 countries in 1 month and visit 100 of points of sale, and I had to make this like in Brazil we use that expression, in English of course more word like the Tower of Babel, the Babel's Tower. I don't know how do you say that, but like you get people from all over the world and they need to decide on something. I had to organize these meetings with all the sales directors of Europe. So we had like a Danish, an English, an Spanish, an Italian, a French, Polish guy, and an Italian that would take care of all the East Europe. And I believe I'm forgetting somebody, sorry. But the thing is, when you get all of these people like with this cultural background differences, also like you really need to facilitate to understand how they think, because completely different. Like even in terms of like simple answers, you know, like in Italian we'll speak 100 words to say something and will be super nice and kind, and then there you have a Polish guy that will just like go straight to the point and say, no, that doesn't make sense. Like this and that, and it might be like super reasonable, but the approach is completely different. It's just a matter of like, and people will interpret that in different ways, and I would have to navigate all of those differences. So that was a really good school for me. I think that's where I get all this the development of the sensitivity to different cultures and how to translate. Because some of the guys were like, I don't know, you have somebody with a marketing background, one that had a really sales background, and the other that was like really R&D background, and they like a business development, they were super technical, and they would speak like technical terms and things of food processing that was like mind-blowing. And then to get everybody in the same table and to get them to speak and to decide, and you have to put the information in a way that they can process that. And that also was one of the biggest things that I got to lead in that company, like the sustainability strategy. And that I could only do because of working together with my colleagues, and in how we would present this, like this big, not really an assumption, but this vision to the CEO and to the higher levels, using their language also, because then you need to speak like really business language and like investor and so on. So yeah, there are many different levels of complexity to navigate when we're dealing with people, especially as like in a leadership role. And I mean that not necessarily as an like in Italian is like this, like an authority role. You know, I don't mean a leader as like the CEO, like the hierarchy. Yeah, like not in the hierarchy, but like a leadership as you are leading something. Like you can lead a project without being the highest, the hippo, you know. And when you lead any initiative, you should be sensible to those things, because that will make you more successful. Like then that will like increase the chances that you will be successful.
I agree with that 100%. I know that you can be a leader regardless of your title. And I would love to talk about that as we jump into the third question. But now, and I think we're kind of getting there, and I have so many questions for Thalita as well, because you guys have different, you work with different industries prior to coming to Echoes, even though we all kind of, me too, I worked with publishing before as my first internship in 2011. But I'm curious to know about the culture for you, Thalita, especially. Like, how was the culture, or what was your dream as a culture if you were maybe the only graphic designer there? Like, can you compare a little bit like your previous experiences before arriving at Echoes and maybe now, even though we're working together for a couple of months only, like, can you see a difference in terms of culture, in terms of processes maybe, or in terms of rituals that maybe can help the internal culture of that company leads to a more design maturity approach?
Sure. Well, it's been, like you said, just a couple of months, but I have seen so much, and you talked about what would be my dream at my previous work. Studying in strategic design for a while now, and while I was there in the publishing company, I wanted to do more, not just graphic design, not just the visual. And one thing that I feel in the culture that was most that I would like there back then to change the most was the collaborative way of working, bringing people together, engaging the teams. People would often work by themselves and not communicate within each other, within the team. The silos that Victor talked about, the silos were very, very isolated. So the sales team didn't talk to the publishing team, didn't talk to the publicity team. It was a mess. And inside the teams with themselves were like that as well. People didn't communicate. They didn't collaborate, and they be often found themselves in jobs that they were not working together. And this is one of the main things that I think was important to change culturally. And in other thing that I think it's important as well is to see themselves as a business and to understand where they are at and where they want to be. They didn't have the vision. They didn't have a clear proposition value. They don't know what it is. I was studying this at Echoes. I was learning a lot about this, and when I asked those questions, people didn't know the answers. So it was very sad actually, because to see that a company that was big, not that big, but that has so much potential, and people working very, very hard, working late hours, they didn't know where they were, what they were doing, and how they were going to do. Didn't have structured processes, didn't have the view, didn't understand the people. The human-centered values were almost none. They made a lot of assumptions what people wanted, and this permeated culture throughout the company, throughout the organization. And that's why they had so much trouble with diversity and inclusion, because if you don't think about the people, if you're not concerned, how can you bring that to inside a company? How can you have diversity when you're not even seeing the public, you're not even seeing the client, and you don't know who you are as a company, as a business as well? So that's one thing that I think it's very, very, very different at Echoes. Echoes, you see a lot of frameworks, and communication is a way better. Using the tools for remote work that really, really makes remote work a different thing than just working at your house, at home. It's not the same. So there are a lot of things that are so much better that I can't even name it. But one thing that I was right from the start, right from onboarding, we have a lot of history of the company, and you have the values and the vision, and you have the short-term goals, long-term goals, and you have a process, a planning on how we are going to achieve that, and how we are going to achieve that as a team. And in the core values, they are also related not only to the clients, because I think a lot of companies think about the client in selling, in revenue, but the values of Ecos, I think it's very related not only to the clients, not only as a company, as how they are seen as a company, but how they interact, how they impact people and society, and they believe they have to do this in a positive way, not only being a business that makes money, and that permeates all the culture inside the company as well. So I think this is also very important and related to what Victor was saying, that we have to think about the people. You have to be human-centered, and you have to respect diversity of cultures, and respect individuals, and they hide idiosyncrasies and their qualities and their weaknesses, and help them and build together something, not only looking for profits, but looking to doing something that has real value for the people, for the world as well.
I love what you're saying, and I love your reflection, actually. And a couple of things that you said made me come to two thoughts. First, I believe what you're saying is that, and it's also a pretty intrinsic design principle, which is you cannot base your work on assumption. So either you're doing research, and for you to do research, you necessarily need to be communicating, collaborating, and listening, either your internal stakeholders or your external stakeholders. So I believe that's also a key to develop design maturity, and it's very much related to what you both said, which is collaboration and communication. And another thing is, and Victor, we were doing we took the session together on Monday with Peter Merrills, when he was saying that how important it is not for you to be judging everybody else's work, but in a way, creating alignment by explaining why things are done in a way and why we believe that something is good in a way. And how I relate that to what you're saying, Talita, is that yes, if you're working remotely, or even if you're not, how important it is for you to tell your employee, as much as your external stakeholder, what you believe the vision should be, or what you believe the good values are for the work that you are going to execute. And I think it's just a perfect circle that closes. And I would love to ask Victor then, we spoke about that a little bit, but were there any challenge, and maybe we can also already start leading to the third question, Victor, if you see there is any connection, like how were you engaging people in case that you weren't necessarily working with a mature design environment before? Like how were you engaging those leaders, or is there any comparison that you can do in terms of this is what a mature design company, or whatever, a design-driven company should be doing or could benefit from doing?
I lost the beginning of the question, but I think got the overall meaning. So you want to know how I interact in the different experiences with low design maturity environments and higher design maturity. Is that it? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna catch the hook also from what Talita said. Like the vision is really important, and that for strategy in general. So when you are in an environment, for example, that of low maturity in design, that they probably don't have a clear vision of what they're doing, why they're doing, what's the aggregated value that they're bringing to the table, what's the value proposition, their differentiating factors, and so on and so forth. What works in at least how I navigated those environments was creating my own, not in the way that I'll do whatever I want and that's my vision and I will lead in that direction because that's what I believe. No, but when you use design methodology like research and go after, okay, what are the trends in this market, what we are doing, why we are doing this, and you question things when you have any doubt, and you start to build your own context, you can have a clearer vision. And that vision, if you know the environment, if you know your leaders, it's easy to make it aligned with all of those variables. And when you do that, you end up leading the way, because as Scott said, like things are there, but the hard thing is to get those answers. When you collect those answers, it almost naturally gives you like a compass, you know. It's not a clear shared vision, but it's a compass that allows you to navigate, and on doing that, you end up clearing the way for a lot of people, like, and also getting some momentum because people have their frustrations, and when you start answering those frustrations without complaining, but with solutions and so on, that really gets some balls rolling, and then there's a ripple effect, right? So the echoes of your actions also go in that direction. For just connecting that with the previous question, of course, you cannot change like all the environments. You cannot change people's minds. You know, there are limits for everything, and that's where hierarchy, I think, is really important. Like the leadership in terms also of hierarchy, they can sponsor cultural change with a lot more leverage than somebody doing like bottom up. Like even bottom up, you need to convince them so they can like get your hook and pull you up. You know, when you have those, like I was really lucky to work in this company where the company overall was really industrial, and they didn't have like a design mindset or even innovation mindset like that evolved. But the CEO had that vision that could be a way, and then he brought us in like in a strategic role. And when you have that leverage, you know, that sponsorship, that makes it easier for you to navigate also on ways. We are seeing this also in terms of like digital transformation within companies, you know, like you can do things bottom up, you can do things like even evolve the maturity in a specific area or whatever, but when you have the help, let's say, or the sponsorship of these hierarchical leaders, I don't know how to differentiate, just to make it clear, but that makes it a lot easier. And that's what also builds culture, I believe. Like the example is what builds culture. Like, of course, writing things on paper, but anyone that working with startups and companies know that we write like mission, vision, and whatever, and things will be written on the wall. And normally, like it's the values are exactly what they not necessarily have, like so they want, so they aim for, but not necessarily what they are doing in a daily basis. Is as Talita brought, like the actions need to reflect those things, and you need to translate that, you know, and it's not easy, of course, especially when you have legacy, you have all the works.
I have another follow-up question though. Do you have a case? Do you have like an example of something that maybe you've done in a more practical way? Because I would love for people to leave this with, I don't know, a more concrete idea of, okay, I am not in a very mature environment right now, but you know what? This is an ingredient side. I can try that. Is there anything more tangible? And please, I don't want to put it in a tough situation, but if you have a case and maybe you don't, it's okay. I can hear you.
Sorry, can you just repeat? There was some noise also going on.
No problem.
So the case regarding.
Yeah, do you have a case of one of your previous work jobs or even now where you were actually making that change or engaging leaders or teams that had low design maturity, just so we can have something a little more tangible for people to bring home?
completely. So I have the both cases. Like I said, the CEO that was sponsoring like strategic design, and that allowed us to move forward. But in the same company, there was huge challenges internally, especially when we were in contact with the technical department, the R&D, right? So R&D should be like innovation, and so it should be easier. But mindsets are mindsets, and they are built in some way for some reason also, and we had huge challenges there, like how to get the collaboration, as the leader said, like to get the collaboration of our co-workers, especially not the co-workers. We would do really well, like we would work really well, and I love those guys. But in their leadership, I had huge challenges, because there is the possibility that people see things as competition, or why are you coming here and messing in my pods. That there is, when you speak of human, there are the human factors, and I had to do a lot of that, to the point that it was really hard, and then things get known for it, and we move forward, and we did everything anyways, like being a lot more political, having a lot more alignments or whatever. Like you need to work with what you have, right? So that's and then there is, of course, that's one occasion I was internally with different areas. Then there is the cases that you have a client also, and then their vision of your work is different from what you believe, or from what you're proposing, and we always need to find the best, the optimum way, right? Like how can balance all the needs and why, and put things on the table and explain it, and then maybe show it in another way, because that's something that goes a lot. It's not just saying things or writing things. Things get a lot more understood also visually. If you show them, and not bringing information as opinion, because that's, even with research, that goes a long way. When you are not saying that, okay, we studied a lot of articles, and that's how they do it, and then you say, okay, but why? And then you are lost, because okay, you need to build the narrative, the storytelling of whatever it is that you are telling, that you want to say, and you need to give the backup, the evidence, right? So if you say, oh no, this study from the best university in that segment said that, and we believe that this is because of those trends, and then there is the economic menace, then there's climate change, and whatever there is that is messing up our pot for the next 50 years. We should not go in that direction, because it's a lot different than saying, oh, I love Fridays for the Future, and that's the way we need to go, right? And I'm just using that example because I'm thinking also in the sustainability strategy that I worked on, but that goes for whatever, like even software development. If you say, oh no, this is better, why? What is the accessibility issues that are involved, the affordance, the whatever, the evidence. Where is the evidence? That when you show that, you not only show your knowledge, so your authority on that topic goes up in the minds of everyone involved, but you also prove to them, and you give them more knowledge. Because then when you speak of affordance, they know what affordance is. And when you speak of accessibility, they don't think of wheelchairs. They'll think, oh, it's accessibility in terms of visual. And you need to connect those dots, because people are not working in your industry. If so, like if they were specialists in your profession, you would have no profession, right? They would not be hiring you. So
I love what you said, because I think it's quite tangible. What I've heard was asking questions and never make assumptions. So especially if you're starting to get into someone else's territory, to avoid ego battles, like I said here, ask questions and don't come from assumptions. Bring evidence. So then it's not a matter of, oh, it's what my research. yes, it could be my research. My research is proven by X, Y, and Z. So that way kind of dissociate from you, and it's easier for the person to maybe want to do more of what you're saying or what you're bringing up, as well as explaining maybe in a more visual way, like a visual storytelling or anything graphic that it's more illustrative. So maybe people can grasp it in their brains in a more, I don't know, easy way to digest. I really love that. But Talit, I also have this question for you, which is, maybe you weren't in a leading position, but you were maybe the only designer there. And for you to navigate an organization that maybe didn't have the design material or didn't see design as a strategy, were there personal processes or rituals that you have for you to be able to conduct your job in a way that would make more sense to you as a strategic tool, or what were the soft skills required for you to be able to understand your client or your, I don't know, your leader's need? Is that something that you can share with us, so maybe people can also bring something more concrete home?
I think one of the key things that I could implement in my job, my day-to-day job, was the communication. The communication, I saw that it was a key part of bringing people together and bringing the work together and making everybody on the same page. Because when someone is talking A and another one is talking B and nobody is understanding, and sometimes they are all talking A and they still aren't getting to across each other. So that was one thing that I tried to implement, and it was mildly successful. To build a culture of collaborative work was really hard, because people were they were not competitive people by themselves, but it was in competitive environment. So it was really hard, and I did a few times that I could bring people together to work and ask questions and try to make them feel comfortable, because people who are competitive in a workplace, they are often scared of losing their jobs. And I was always trying to bring ideas together and making the work better, not stealing, trying to communicate that. No, I'm not taking your thing. That's your job. That's okay. That's your work. Let's go through that together. Let's I can bring this to this work, and it's going to be better. And in trying to have a more holistic approach to the projects, because as you told before, that the visual, the embellishment, the beautiness was always thought as something process at the end of all. So when I try to bring everybody together from the start of the project, being like an issue or photo production. So everybody that was involved, no matter when they were, whenever the part of the process they were important, more important. But at the beginning, if everybody were together, the results were way better, always, 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 always. But it was hard for people to get that idea from the start. So I had to be the one that started everything, wait a minute, we have to do this, that person should be in, that other person should be here too as well. So this is, I guess it was the few things I could do as I was leader. I was a leader from a 2-people team, so only. So but as part of the bigger team that I was part of, that was what I tried to do and implement. Not much, but it's all.
Well, that's fantastic already. And one of the excuse me, one of the master classes we had for season 2, and I'm not sure yet for season 3, is facilitation is a design leadership skill, and it's so important for us to understand that guiding people from way A to B and having everybody on the same mindset, it requires a lot of work, requires a lot of empathy, a lot of deep listening, and some of those skills are the ones that we are those are our goals to deliver to the students. And I would love to, following up to all of this, Victor, as I said in the beginning, can you give us a quick testimonial of how you see the course that you're taking now already being implemented in your daily work with ACOS, or in your life, or other projects? I don't know what you're doing on the side of ACOS. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
For sure. So the course having a huge impact, especially I don't know, let's see how to phrase that, but not only with the content is really powerful. I think even as Scott asked for like book recommendations, that is one that connects with something we were speaking before, like vision and how to lead the team, like the Bruce Miles principles. Like Bruce Miles' class was amazing. Like the content there is like super powerful. And then there's a lot of also applied knowledge in the workshops, that there are a lot of things that I started to apply, like internally, or to test out, or even reflections. The last session, yesterday's session, I don't remember the name of the session. Do you know, Luna? But
Design operations, design ops.
yeah, design ops, exactly, the design ops one. The small frameworks that we did there in the workshop, but and all the reflections that they brought, like the reflection that they brought were even more powerful than the workshop itself. Like, it was amazing work from the guests, but everything that started to move, like the gears that started to move, like in my head, and okay, how can I apply this? How can I improve that? And I already put in practice, like from day one. I think from I believe we started with Bruce Mal, like that had huge impacts on everything. Like I started doing, and then also to have the Stephen from service design doing, like, with just the way he facilitates a session already gives you like 300 inputs on how you can facilitate better, because he's a master in the craft. So it's also I think that the huge opportunities to get those, even the meta information that goes in the sessions are really powerful. Then we had also oh, I'm so bad with names, but I think it's different also. That's why I'm confused. From Envision.
Yeah, Stephen Gates.
Stephen Gates, exactly. So he also gave us a lot on the design maturity research that they did there in Vision and all the works, and it's exactly connects with everything that we're saying right now. So it's a really powerful experience, and that I congratulate all the colleagues that are working on that, especially you, Luna, and Erico, and everyone, because the results are like are daily, are like from each session.
I love what you're saying, because what I've heard, yes, there are parts of their talks on the master classes and the workshops that are designed to work towards that goal that we want to achieve, but also thinking that there's so many side effects that are untangible, and there's no way for you to calculate the value, that just by being there, and maybe it's a joke that the master class is making, and you're like opening all the avenues in your brain and changing your practice by the next day after the course. And thank you, I really appreciate. I didn't want it to put on spot, but anyway, I guess I'm doing that throughout the whole session today with the both of you. I really
think that's the whole point.
I need to play the devil advocate a little bit, and I promise I'm a good person. I really do appreciate you both so much. Thank you for kickstarting the first fire session for Design Leadership 3. I'm super happy. I mean, it's my baby. I'm the program manager, so I'm like, I see every single detail, and bringing these conversations and knowing that what you guys are sharing will literally achieve every single corner of the world is so powerful. And we need to be having more conversations like this because the market is in pain. Design leaders are still lost. And if we can make their lives a little bit easier, why not? It's beneficial for all of us and for the outcomes and outputs of our deliverables or our new ideas. Again, just coming back here, we still have 30% off discount until the first week of August. So literally end of next week. So I would hurry up. We already have people signing up. I'm super excited. We still have some time to go, but if you want to join and you know it will, why not take advantage of the discount? I believe that the questions we had on the chat were already kind of addressed by us. Scott, you feel contemplated? Is there anything else that anyone would like to ask? It's now or never because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're already 1 hour in. And if not, if you don't feel comfortable opening up the mic or writing in the chat, we can easily just be connected on LinkedIn or whatever other medium or platform. I'm more than happy and open to have conversations. And knowing my colleagues, I'm pretty sure they are too. So thank you so much for being here with the three of us today, and have a good morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know where you are. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All. And just one thing before I go, since it's recorded, it's Adam Lawrence, like Luna corrected me, the master. Yeah, that's
Here's
it.
Something else.
Thanks everyone. Feel free to connect with me with LinkedIn, and let's keep the conversation going.
For sure. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.